Boxing truth here. Terence Crawford is in desperate need of a big fight, considering he's been cherry-picking lightweights in his last two voluntary defenses, guys who weren't even ranked at 140 pounds and weren't even ranked in the WBO rankings. But Top Rank, Crawford's promoter, are in cahoots with the WBO. They can get him to pull strings, getting them to sanction voluntary defenses for Crawford against unranked lightweights who were not ranked in the WBO rankings at 140 pounds. So Crawford can't afford to fight another lightweight, not even the best lightweights out there. He has to fight a top opponent at 140 pounds. He had a great option in Provodnikov on the table recently. It would have been the perfect opponent for him, a named fighter with big wins in his career, who's fought top fighters. He's a legitimate contender. Has been on the HBO platform numerous times. Fans know who he is, and has done great ratings on HBO. And stylistically, would have made for a great action fight. Would have did good business at the Forum in California. Perhaps maybe close to a sellout had that fight been signed, sealed, and delivered. But Provodnikov, understandably, made a business decision that would better benefit himself, his career, and his team, and signed a multi-fight deal with Showtime, who showed more interest in his career because HBO was only interested in Provodnikov as a stepping stone for Crawford. Had Crawford defeated Provodnikov, it would lead to bigger and better, more lucrative opportunities. But now that fight's off the table, so Crawford is left with slim pickings for his next fight, scheduled to be in the summer at the Forum in California. That is still the plan according to Top Rank. But Top Rank right now doesn't want to make a fight with Viktor Postal because right now that fight is not big enough as they will like it to be. While it's a significant fight, it's a unification fight between the top 240-pound fighters according to BoxRec. Unfortunately, Postal doesn't deliver the viewership that Provodnikov brings. Outside of hardcore fans, boxing fans, no one knows who the hell Viktor Postal is. The ratings show that in his last fight against Matisse. HBO had one of their worst ratings telecasts when Postal fought Matisse. Wasn't a great viewership, one of their lowest, probably the lowest in 2015. I'm not really sure, but it wasn't their best. It wasn't one of their best telecasts. And Postal, he looked good in the fight. He made Matisse quit. Became the WBC junior welterweight champion. And you would think from that performance he delivered on HBO, he would be demanded back on the network, would be in line for a lot of fights in the future, but it's been tough for Top Rank to get Postal back on the network on HBO because HBO wanted Matisse to win, and Postal is a Ukraine guy with no fan base in the United States who hasn't been on the HBO platform many times. He's only been on HBO only twice and hasn't done great ratings. So Arum has a dilemma because he really has no good options for Crawford for July. Provodnikov was the guy, a top 5 opponent with a name and a guy with a great fighting style and brings viewership to the table. In Postal, he's got a tall, lanky boxer from Ukraine, no fan base in the U.S., and doesn't bring great viewership yet, and also can fight. He could also defeat Terence Crawford. It will be a 50-50 fight if that fight were to be signed. It will be split right down the middle. And Arum doesn't want to make that fight for 2 reasons. 1, it's not a big enough fight. 2, Postal could beat Crawford. And that's not something Arum wants. He wants Crawford to be the guy. That's the guy he's pushing to be his next star in his stable. Postal, he's 32 years old. and he's really not the future of Top Rank. So Arum, he has a choice to make. Is he gonna pull the trigger and make this fight? Also, with the rumored reported stuff that's going on with HBO about their budget, that it's significantly low, that they don't really have the funds to buy so many fights. Just how much can they offer both of these guys? Both guys are going to be expected to be duly compensated, especially Postal. They can't give him a lowball offer like they did against Matisse. He's going to want a reasonable offer to fight Crawford, especially being a unification bout and a main event on HBO. So it's not really an easy fight to make, considering Crawford pretty much gave Lundy a flat fee in his last fight. Lundy came cheap, 100,000. He talked shit to help promote the fight, and he came in cheap. And Crawford was able to get most of the revenues. Got over $1 million payday for the fight against Postal. Postal is a champion, and he's gonna want to be treated with respect and be given a reasonable offer. But that's the problem. Can HBO even afford this fight? They were giving Arum shit about having him fight Granados. They weren't really interested in that fight. They weren't really willing to buy it. So Arum, he has to look to find somebody else to fight Crawford that would be a good fight stylistically. Also bring good viewership, because Crawford's last fight on HBO, it didn't average over 1 million viewers. It just fell short on it. It did have a lot of competition, so that could be the case. But Adrian Broner, he's booked, and he's an Al Heyman client. Arum has discussed about wanting to work with Heyman for that fight, but Heyman, even though he's making good in-house fights right now, and he's done some fights with co-promotions with people he's worked with before, he has yet to shown a willingness to work with his rival promoters at the moment. So that fight right now is problematic to make. Trianowski, he's fighting Cesar Cuenca, so that fight is not really, it's not a fight that's really going to excite fans anyway, because Trianowski, he's unknown, and in that fight with Cuenca, it was an anticlimactic ending. So they need to fight again to determine a true winner. It's not a fight HBO would probably be that interested anyways. Both guys are relatively unknown in the States. Matisse, he's having some eye issues, may likely retire. Jose Benavidez is moving up in weight, will perhaps be the first defense of Jesse Vargas' title. He already knocked out Delorme. Keita Obera, I think he's a Heyman client, I'm not really sure. He fought on PBC platform. Amir Imam, he's a Don King fighter, but he's back to the drawing board. And will look to get back in the win column in his next fight. So the pickings are slim for Terence Crawford for his July date at the Forum. He's going to have to find somebody where fans will be satisfied, considering it's a major letdown to tease fans that he was going to fight Pravanikov, only for him to fight perhaps another no-name opponent or even a lightweight. But there are a couple of options, but they're not the greatest options for Crawford. Since the Postal fight will be difficult to make in terms of what money can be offered to both fighters, since they're both champions, considering HBO's budget, and also Arum doesn't really want to make it right now, because Postal really needs another fight on the HBO platform to bring his viewership up, to make fans more aware and more knowledgeable about him as a fighter. So Arum could opt to have Mauricio Herrera fight Crawford, who is a name fighter. He's been in some big fights. He's a skilled fighter, but he lacks the punching power. It's a decent fight. It's better than compared to Crawford's last three opponents, Delorme, Lundy, and Derry John. However, stylistically, it's not the best fight that could be made. Herrera, he's a maestro. He's a skillful fighter with craft, but not the biggest puncher, and it's just not a great stylistic fight. It's not a fight that's gonna really, really excite fans, but it is an upgrade compared to Lundy and what's his name, Derry John. Another option is Adrian Granados. He recently knocked out Amir Imam in a good performance on Showtime. He's in the top 10 of the 140-pound rankings. It'll be a legitimate contender, the first legitimate contender Crawford has fought at 140 pounds as a world champion since he beat Delorme. And stylistically, it would be a good fight. Granados comes forward. He throws a lot of punches. He's experienced. He's been in there with top fighters. Mostly lost close fights to prospects coming up like Brad Solomon, and he's fought other guys. He fought Frankie Gomez, lost a close decision. I think he fought Kermit Cintron. Yeah, he also fought Amir Imam, beat him down, stopped him. And he's coming off a good win. He's got some momentum. He's confident. He's won his last 4 fights. He hasn't been easy work for anybody. He's a rated opponent. That'll be a good alternative for Crawford. However, he's not very well known by the boxing public outside of hardcore fans. Granados is really best known for his win over Amir Imam. But I'd rather have that fight compared to Herrera if the Postal fight can't be made. But those are the only options on the table right now for Terence Crawford. Considering Matisse is out, Broner is booked, and with Al Heyman, Trinowski not well known, a world champion but not well known. Benavidez moving up in weight. Delorme he knocked out. Herrera stylistically not the best fight that can be made. So Arum has 2 choices. Either make the fight with Postal right now, because that is the most significant fight that be made. Also, it gives Crawford an opportunity to fight the best available guy in his division. Unified a division for the first time in his career, giving him a lot of momentum before a proposed pay-per-view fight later this year, should he get past the next opponent in the summer. So logically, yes, it should be Postal next, but because of the logistics, what money can be offered, Postal's lack of name recognition, the fight could be problematic to make. But either it's Postal or Granados. I don't want to see anybody else for Crawford. Herrera, okay, that's as decent, but it's not the best fight that can be made. But Crawford, he needs to fight the best available guy out there. If it's not Postal, then Granados. If not Granados, then Mauricio Herrera, because it'll be a major letdown to go from fighting to being mentioned to fighting Ruslan Pervanikov to perhaps cherry picking another lightweight in a weight division below him, or fighting another no-name opponent that would make it more difficult for Crawford to get a big money fight down the road. This is Boxing Truth. I'm out.